We are all welcome to this morning's meeting, and we are grateful to God. As we said, we are starting our 5th anniversary celebrations with our health talk. God has been good to Clip. We are 5 years. 5 years is not a joke, and we want to be grateful to God for everything that He has done for us. And so this morning, as we kickstart our activities with a health talk, I believe that God will bless us. This morning, we have in our midst a very fine gentleman, a reverend minister, and a doctor as well. His name is Reverend Dr. Frederick Ahin. He's a consultant and he's a specialist, a senior specialist at the 37 Military Hospital. And I always say to people when I'm introducing him that he's a very good man. Aside all that he is, I want to know him, and I know him as a good man. And he happens to also be my husband. And so God has blessed me too. And so this morning we are blessed to have him deal with the topic of stress and its health implications. And I believe that for us, especially a lot of us who are in the corporate space and who do our own businesses and all that, we always say, oh, I went to the hospital, they said there's nothing wrong with me, it's stress. So this morning he is going to delve into that subject. And I believe that by the time we are done, we will learn something and we will live healthier lives. So join me as we welcome Reverend Dr. Frederick Ahin.
Thank you, Lady Sarah. Good morning to everybody. I hope everybody can hear my voice.
Yes.
Okay. So once again, thank you, Lady Sarah and your team, and also good morning to everybody and also your patrons. Thank you very much for having me. Ladies, I think I can share my slide, isn't it?
Yeah, so
Okay. So thank you very much for having me once again. So this morning we're looking at stress and its health implications. And let me start with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we invite your presence, Holy Spirit, as you take us through this presentation. I pray that somebody be blessed this morning as we hear this presentation in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So stress is one of the leading causes of death, but it is the number one leading cause of chronic illnesses that we see in our hospital. And once we are able to manage stress, we are way ahead in handling a lot of the chronic illnesses that we see in our hospitals. We were all in this country when we heard of the death of one of the leading prophets in Nigeria, Prophet TB Joshua. When after preaching, he just went to his office and he was relaxing, only to be seen dead. And this happened after we're told that he's had a lot of engagement, a lot of speaking engagement. Doctors advised him to relax. There was no relaxation, and he just died like that. I have one of the professors of hematology in our clinic. There's Professor Beduankra. He was a professor of hematology and also a reverend minister, ordained minister. I remember when I told him that I was an ordained minister, he was so happy. Unfortunately, one of the years, 31st night, he was preaching to cross over to the following year. Unfortunately, he collapsed whilst preaching and he died just like that. There was also another popular preacher in Ghana by name Bob Hackman. He also died whilst preaching. And I had a bass guitarist in my church, and this man also had a few challenges, few extended family issues, and he also died just like that. And all these deaths, these sudden deaths, are stress-related deaths. As corporate people, we are always faced with deadlines and targets to meet. Sometimes you have a superior who is very difficult, and just the thought of having to face such a superior creates a lot of challenges for us, and it puts a lot of stress in us. If sometimes, Clay, having to get people to handle programs, and I mean, you go through so much stress in our homes. Sometimes having to pay the bills, school fees alone puts stress on us. And unfortunately, as we age, we are prone to chronic illnesses, diabetes, hypertension. And once you are told that you have any of these diseases, it also puts so much stress on you. Again, trauma, accidents, sometimes you have to go through surgery, and all these things put stress on you. Abuse from our marriages also is one of the things that people face, and it puts so much stress on them. Sometimes people have to divorce for one reason or the other, and the whole process is very stressful. So having said that, let me say that stress is a fact of life that we can't avoid. Nobody can avoid stress in life. But what we can is to manage stress so that it doesn't manage us. If we don't manage stress, stress will end up managing us. In our lives, we go through changes. We have childhood, adolescent, maturity stage, and you are getting to your old stage. And all these changes comes with a lot of uncertainties. In life, there are so many uncertainties in life, and these uncertainties serve to put a lot of stress on us. So, like I mentioned earlier, stress is the leading cause of hypertension and diabetes. In fact, these are twins. Anywhere you see hypertension, you are likely to see diabetes and depression, which is on the increase now because a lot of people are going through frustrations in their marriages and they have not been able to manage that well, and depression sets in. So the key to dealing with stress is to develop an awareness of how you can interpret stress. Once you develop an awareness of how you can interpret stress, then you know how to react to stress. So let's look at vulnerability to stress. Now, the amount of stress that people encounter as leaders is quite different from the amount of stress that you encounter as a follower. I remember when we were doing economics, there was one topic, wage differential. Why would a man who is in suit, sitting in an air-conditioned office, only writing, earn more than a man who is out there on the field, doing wala tu wala sa, digging and sweating over there? And one of the factors that determine the difference in wage is the ability to take responsibility. As leaders, especially those of us in the corporate arena, we need to take a lot of responsibilities, and having to do that puts a lot of stress on us. So the stress that a leader would face is likely to be different from the stress that a follower will go through. The stress that somebody in the battlefield will go through would always be different from the stress that somebody on grounds will face. Because in the battlefield, I mean, you are not certain who is going to strike, who is going to attack. So the stress levels are quite different. Having said that, let me try to look at the definition of stress. So I have 4 definitions. The first definition is that stress is the key word is non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. Like I said, we go through change in our lives, in our homes, in our workplaces. Change is always taking place. So the non-specific response of the body to this demand is what leads to stress. Now, the second definition is a state of mental tension. That is the underlying word, mental tension. So the first definition is non-specific. The second, mental tension and worry that is caused by the problems that we face in life. It could be in our work. And this normally leads to anxiety. And this is from the Webster Merriam Dictionary. And the third definition of stress, and that was coined by Lazarus in his book, Stress, Appraisal, and Coping. And he said, stress results from an imbalance between demands and resources. Then again, I remember in economics, the definition of economics is something that I always remember. Economics is a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. So our wants are many. What we need in life are so many, but the means to fulfill what we need in life or the resources are very, very limited. So therefore, we have to put a balance between our demands and our resources. Now, this imbalance between our demand and our resources end up putting stress on us. Now, the fourth definition of stress was coined by Seward in his book, Managing Stress. And he said that stress is the ability to cope with a perceived or real threat. So some of the threats are perceived, some of the threats are real. And this causes one mental, physical, emotional well-being. I mean, the perceived or real threat causes us to have problems in our mental, emotional, and our spiritual well-being, as well as our physiological responses. And this then have to lead to an adaptation. So stress causes us to adapt to situations. So this is just a summary of our definition. So stress is the mental, the physical, the emotional, the behavioral reactions that we adapt to a demand or a threat. So there is a reaction and there is a threat or a demand. So our reaction to the threat or demand is what produces stress in our life. Now, If our reaction to stress becomes negative, then we say we are distressed, we become overwhelmed, we become burnout, out of control, or oppressed. However, there is a positive reaction to stress, and that is what gives us the energy to rise up to any challenge that we are confronted with. Now, one of the easiest reaction to stress is anxiety, and anxiety is marked by intense nervousness or agitation. And people who are going through stress become very anxious, and you see it in the way they can't relax. They are nervous in all that they are doing. They are easily agitated. They are so impatient in what they do. And like I said, not all stress is bad. When stress is bad, we call it distress. But when stress is trying to fuel some amount of energy in you to take up opportunities, we call it stress. Now, anybody going through stress has two main responses, and that is what we call the flight or the fight response. You either run away from stress or you prepare to face stress based on the physiological changes that the body undergoes. So the physiological changes can either be long or short. And what may be stress for one person may not necessarily be stress for the other person. Some may have having to do their work at their offices, and that alone can put stress on them. Sometimes having to go to classes or study would put stress on somebody. Relationship with our partners, relationship with our families, even relationship with our friends, especially with a new friend, it puts a lot of stress in us. Having to go through trauma in life, even something simple as change in our residence can be stressful to us. Retirement is one of the things that we go through in life. And sometimes having to go through retirement is something that tends to create a lot of problems for people. So retirement, even childcare, handling our finances, our physical health, our appearances, sometimes even getting married alone can put a lot of stress on us. People sometimes changes their schools, and that alone can also put stress on us. Sometimes people have chronic illnesses, and maybe the doctor tells you cut down on your salt, cut down on your pepper, and the change in the eating habit, sometimes you want to lose weight, and the change in your eating habit alone can cause stress. Sometimes people have legal matters, health matters, legal issues, and having to go through all these legal issues can create a lot of stress to us. Sometimes you have to switch careers, and career changes can also put stress on us. Sometimes the death of any member of our family, a spouse, a child, a relation, can bring untold stress on us. Now, anybody going through stress have some warning signs or red flags that when you start seeing those red flags, then you have to slow down on whatever you are doing. And one of the red flags is to easily get fatigue, easy fatigability. Once you get tired easily, you don't used to get tired, and once you realize that you get tired easily, or the least thing, you become so exhausted, then you should know that when stress is setting, sometimes you'll be there and all of a sudden you have a blackout. You can't see anything, you can't remember anything. And if you are not lucky and probably you are climbing the stairs or something, you can fall down and injure yourself. Sometimes constant headaches. If you're having constant headaches, you take medication and it doesn't seem to remain. There's no remission. Or you're having a lot of sleepless nights, it could be a red flag that stress is actually setting in. So now the question is, what makes something stressful for us, or what will make something stressful for a person? So in situations where there is a strong demand and the resources to fulfill those demands are not there, then that demand will become stressful for us. But when the resources to fulfill that demand are there, it becomes so easy. You want something, maybe like there's water, and you don't have money. There is stress, it puts stress on you. But once you have a lot of money, you know that you can easily get the water. Situations that demand imminent attention can also put stress on us. Life situations can also put stress on us. And sometimes when there is a deviation from our normal activity to an abnormal activity, then it can put stress on us. Ambiguity, uncertainties. You desire something, but you can't have it. Or you want to control something, but your ability, maybe you are a boss, or maybe you are a mother, you want to control your children, but they are not making themselves available to be controlled, then it will produce stress on us. So why do we stress out? We stress out for two major reasons. One, when we perceive that there is a danger that we cannot handle, or when we believe that we don't have resources to meet a demand, then we end up stressing out. So having said that, I would just look at the major causes of stress in our lives. And there are two main causes of stress. We have external causes and internal causes. External causes may be like our job, our family, and I will go into details in that. So for us in Ghana, we don't experience a lot of wars, but sometimes we have tremors, we have threats. Even this Russian-Ukraine war, look at the kind of economic hardship it's having on us. We are not in Russia, we are not in Ukraine, but the war there is causing a lot of economic hardships for us. So wars, accidents, and traumatic experiences, maybe you were attacked, assaulted by robbers, and that experience will continue to produce trauma or stress to us. Or maybe you were raped at a younger age. Also stressful events like loss of a spouse, a mom, or pressure to marry. Sometimes you are of age, and society, in our society, when you are of age and you are not marrying, people, when are you marrying? Everybody is asking you, when are you marrying? When are you marrying? When are you marrying? And that puts so much stress on you. Our day-to-day frustrations. When I was introducing, I said sometimes you have to go and meet your superior, and you are looking at the bitter words that the superior is going to use at you, to direct those words at you, and it becomes so stressful for you. Sometimes you have to redo a whole work. I remember there was a time I was preparing a sermon, I was typing, and I had not saved what I was typing, and the whole thing shut up. I called a friend to see how I can re-get everything, and I couldn't, and it was so stressful. I have to do the whole thing again, and that puts stress on us. And our physical environment. Sometimes you'll be shocked that the environment that we live in can put a lot of stress on us. I have a friend who had to sell where he was staying. He has to sell his property and move to a different place because of the environment. Somebody was smoking fish just behind his building, and it was terrible. Having to stay in an area where there is no water can put a lot of stress on us. And noise. Like I mentioned, a friend who had to leave where he was because a church just behind his building was making so much noise. And sometimes he comes from home very tired and he can't sleep. So sometimes churches make undue noise, and that tends to irritate people. They are not able to sleep, and that also puts so much stress on them because they go through tension, headaches, they become irritable, muscle tension because they have not really slept well. Now, for the internal causes of stress, sometimes conflicts with having to make choice between two dissimilar things. Sometimes deadline, your boss is placing deadline, you need to finish this thing at this particular time, and man, it puts a lot of stress on us. When we had COVID, after Ghana recorded the first cases of COVID, health institutions must prepare, and we had holding centers. And the question is, COVID was novel. Everybody was scared. People even wanted to resign from their workplaces. And, you need to send people to the holding area. Who are you going to send there? Because we heard stories about people dying, doctors dying. It was so stressful having to send people there. And we also know what COVID did to us. When there was lockdown, people had to stay indoors. People have to be quarantined. And the amount of stress that it put on them was not easy. It was very stressful. Sometimes you suffer stress from competition, from maybe you are in business, there are other competitors, and every day you must think about having to be innovative, having to come out with how to let customers patronize your wares, and it gives you a lot of sleepless nights. And guilt is one of the internal causes of stress. Going back to stress, I remember one of my medical colleagues was a senior colleague, and he contracted COVID. He was staying in a house with their mother. He contracted COVID. The wife also had COVID, but because they were strong, they survived. Unfortunately, the mother died out of COVID, and it was like he had killed the mother, and it was so stressful for him. Up to now, he has not gotten over that stress of thinking that he was the one who killed their mother. So our responses to stress are two. Everybody who is going through stress has two main responses. The first one is what I call the physiological response, how our hormonal or our nervous system reacts to stress. And the second response is our psychological response. Physiologically, how do we respond to stress? There is a hormone by name adrenaline that is produced, and that is what causes us to either prepare to fight against the stimulus that is causing stress or to run away from stress. So adrenaline is normally produced by some organs just above the kidneys. We call them the adrenal glands. And they produce adrenaline, and another hormone by name cortisol. And these are the hormones that are responsible for the physiological changes and stress. So anytime we go through stress and the body produces adrenaline, it causes an increase in our circulation because it prepares us to either fight or run away from the stress. So there should be blood in every part of our muscles to prepare us to face the stress. And also, adrenaline causes a change in our respiration. So there is increase in breathing. So your breathing rate continues to be high. And the third response is what actually causes diabetes, because stress causes the body to produce a lot of glucose that will give us the energy to react to the stress. The continual presence of glucose in the blood is what leads to diabetes. So people who go through stress end up having high blood glucose, which will lead to diabetes. Now, stress also causes us to be, when you are preparing to fight against somebody, our clotting mechanism is activated so that in case there is a cut, the blood can stop flowing or oozing out. And the clotting mechanism is activated. And once there is a break in clot, it goes through the bloodstream. And if it lodges in our lungs, the blood vessels in the lungs are very small, so they can be occluded by these clots. And once they occlude the blood vessels going into the lungs, we may end up dying from pulmonary embolism. And that is one of the sudden cause of death. We hear, oh, this person was just walking. He was just walking, and all that we heard was he's dead. It's because the clotting mechanism has been activated, and there's clot in the blood, which can occlude the pulmonary blood system, and that will lead to sudden death. And also, stress leads to decrease in our sexual drive. Sometimes, if you are married and your spouse, is going through stress, it would show in the ability of the spouse to enjoy sex. So there is decrease in libido, and the drive goes down. Physically, once the physiological response has been activated, it shows in our physical appearance. So your heart starts beating, your hands start shaking, your legs start shaking. And this is saying sometimes when you have to do a performance at a church or wherever, they call you and you are shaking. It's a stress that causes you. And the blood pressure goes high. You tend to have headaches. There's so much tension. And indigestion, you eat and it's like you are not able to digest the food. Psychologically, what are the things that we see? The first is with our language. People who are going through stress are they are unable to address people. Sometimes you can't even talk. The way you speak, you start doing and you go blank. Your interest also, there's lack of interest, enthusiasm in activities that you used to enjoy. So sometimes your hobbies, your pastime, favorite hobbies, you don't enjoy them again because of stress. And you tend to be absent from work because you tend to have a lot of pain in your body. You feel sick, you can't go to work, and also you try to withdraw. People who are going through stress try to withdraw from people because they feel that people will notice and ask them questions, so they withdraw. And trust me, people who go through stress end up abusing substances. So sometimes maybe you used to drink before you became a Christian, and I've been having to go through stress. Let me just go and drink and forget about my problems. And before you realize, you have gone back to alcohol usage. Sometimes the company takes you somewhere, you travel, you are somewhere, and you can't cope over there. And there have instances where people who have stopped drinking, they travel and the place becomes so boring and they take to drinking. Your energy levels, by way of behavior and attitude, your energy level tend to fluctuate when you go through stress. And there is a change in your sleep pattern, in one's sleep patterns because of stress. You can't sleep. Sometimes you try sleeping and all of a sudden you are up, you can't sleep, you are awake for a very long time. And because of this inability to sleep, it tones down, it has weight on your relationship. You are so irritated and very suspicious about your partner, and it tends to put a strain on our relationship. By way of our appearances, that people who are going through stress become, I don't care. Whatever will happen should happen. Sometimes they are not even aware that there is a change in their appearances, and they tend to have a lot of suicidal thoughts. By way of concentration, people who are going through stress tend to forget a lot. They are not able to remember. Their concentration is very low. Things that demand immediate attention, and they tend to forget. Their memory becomes short, and their response, sometimes people who that they are able to respond immediately to situations, now their response is haphazard. They are not able, they are not predictable, and they tend to make a lot of mistakes. People who go through stress make a lot of mistakes in whatever they do. They are not able to make good analysis. And emotionally, people who are going through stress become nervous. They are not able to relax, very agitating, and very impatient. Sometimes when you are at the office and your boss is impatient with you, you have to pray for your boss. Sometimes they are going through so much stress being a leader, maybe in their families, relationship, and I mean, you become the recipient of this impatience. And ethically, people who are going through stress tend to compromise. I have a few friends. One of them is married, but is now going through stress of divorce. And now she doesn't care. I mean, she doesn't care who she sleeps with. She gets anybody at all and she doesn't mind. She just sleeps with them and it's okay for her. It's okay for her. And that breaks ethics. You lose self-control. People who are going through stress, I mean, if you go through stress and you are not able to manage, the end result is depression, where you now have to be on drugs for a very long time. Your self-esteem, not to mention, it's not less. People who are going through stress end up losing their self-esteem. So this is just a summary. So people who are going through stress become very fearful, they are anxious, they can't stay, they are nervous, very irritable, not patient, they are not able to focus on what they are doing and they become overwhelmed with life. So having looked at this, the question is, how do we manage stress? How do we overcome stress? What is very important is to do a critical analysis of what is actually causing the stress. Ask yourself, why am I feeling stressed? What is the problem? Am I in control of the situation? What is my chance of reaching my objective? If you are able to analyze the situation, then you are on course, you're on the way to handling stress. So, how do we manage stress? Number one, you need everybody in life, you need to have a very good support system. You need to find somebody who you can talk to about your feelings and your experiences. Talking alone is a way of managing stress. And I mean, this is a nice picture of myself and Lady Sarah. She's my best friend. So whatever experience I go through, I share with her. She shares her experience. And having to share your experience with somebody that you trust alone is the easiest way to manage your stress level. So having a support system is very important. I have these two pictures. And the first one at the top is my bishop, and this is my bishop, and this is the wife, and this is Apostle General Sam Shankra and the wife. And sometimes they go away on retreat to think about life, share their experiences. The picture down is one of the very reverends in our church, very Clement, and this was when he was graduating. He had people to come and support him. In the Bible, when the apostles were threatened, having performed a miracle, the Bible says that they were threatened not to speak again in the name of Jesus Christ. And when they left, they had a support group. They went to the other people, and the Bible says that there they raised their voices and prayed to God. Again, when Peter was miraculously released from prison, the first place he went to was to go to where his support system was. He went to where the disciples were. Initially, he thought it was his ghost, but it was him. Now, what is very important is have a few people that you can share your feelings and your experiences with. And the second suggestion for reducing stress is to change your attitude. Like I mentioned earlier, stress is actually our reaction to a stimulus. And it is said that life is about 10% of what happens to us and 90% of how we react to what happens to us. So if we create a system of reducing how we react to issues of life, then we are on our road to reducing stress. It's not everything that you have to react to. Sometimes that's why God created 2 years, passes here and goes through the other side. The 1 month, we don't have to talk. I mean, listen more, but I mean, don't react to most of the things that you listen to. Now, the third way to reduce stress is to be realistic in life. I believe in goal setting. I believe that as human beings or as ladies, as people created, or as corporate people, we need to set SMART goals. And the S for SMART is specific. I mean, you need to set specific goals. We need to set measurable goals. We need to set goals that are attainable. The R is realistic. Our goals should be realistic, whatever we go through in life. Our expectations should be realistic. Sometimes people expect too much even from themselves, and that puts so much stress on them. So we should be realistic in all that we do, in our marriage, in our workplaces, in our relationships. Don't expect too much from your spouse. Be realistic in what you expect. Be realistic in the goals that you set for yourself. And the fourth way to reduce stress is to be organized. I mean, sometimes people have so many places where they put their car keys. And when they are going out, where did I put my key? Where did I put my key? And that alone puts stress on you. Be organized. Plan your life. Plan your time. Schedule. Once you plan and plan well, you can reduce quite a lot of stress. So once you plan well, it reduces the amount of time wasting, and that serves to take so much stress. There are some things that are very important to us. There are some things that are urgent to us. This is just a diagram by Steve Covey in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And he puts this nice diagram there. There are things that are urgent and important, things that are non-urgent, things that are not important. But I believe that as people, for the sake of time, it's always very good to be in the quadrant where we find ourselves doing things that are non-urgent but important. So in the non-urgent but important quadrant, we are able to plan, we are able to strategize, we are able to recognize the opportunities that we need to have in life, and that tend to reduce stress on us. But if you are in the urgent and important quadrants, you're always trying to solve problems, handling crises, you're always trying to meet deadlines, and it puts so much stress on you. And the fifth way to reduce stress is to learn to take breaks in your life. And this is where my challenge is having to take breaks in life. I mean, sometimes you need to take a break and rejuvenate, relax, rejuvenate, and you realize that you come out with more energy to do whatever you have to do. This is a picture of my bishop again. I love this picture, so I've kept the picture. I mean, taking time, go to a place, I mean, Dubai, go to Singapore, if the means are there, enjoy yourself. If you can, here in Ghana, there are nice places, Peduase Lodge. I mean, so many places where you can go and rejuvenate. And sometimes in between work, I mean, you can take 1 or 2 naps, and that serves to reduce stress on us. Now, the third way to reduce stress is to take very good care of ourselves. I mean, eat properly, get very good sleep, keep a routine. Don't allow uncertain things to come to your life. And this is a picture of Lady Sarah, one of our visits to Dubai, and you can see the smile on her face. I mean, enjoying her meal. I mean, and the picture on the right was when we were cruising on the sea. I mean, when you are able to take good care of yourself, you are able to manage some of these stresses. And the seventh way to learn to reduce stress is to learn to say no. Ladies, it's not everything that we have to take. It's not every opportunity that we have to, I mean, occupy. It's not everything. When you don't have time, learn to say no. Sometimes people pile things on themselves. I mean, your boss is giving you work to do. I mean, there are times when you yourself, you know that this is beyond you. Learn to say no. It's very important. And it's exercise is very important. Exercise is one of the ways of reducing stress. Taking just even 30 minutes of walk 3 times a week goes a long way to reduce stress. So exercising, you can join an aerobic group, you can be on the treadmill, you can exercise on your own, and just walking alone can take a lot of stress away. And the 9th way is to get a hobby. I mean, find a hobby. Sometimes you need to come out of the routines of life. I remember one of the days we're going for a meeting, a Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship meeting, and it was not time to start a meeting. So I was in my car and I was watching a Nigerian movie. And Aisha came and saw me watching the movie and said, "For real, you watch movie?" And she was shocked. And I said, "Look, all works and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Sometimes you need to get a hobby, play, do something that will take you out of the routines of life. Ride bicycle if you can. Get a hobby, and that is very good. The 10th way is to slow down on life. Where are we going? Slow down on life. Where you think you don't have the capacity, delegate. Let somebody handle some of the things. For example, Lady Sarah. Okay, give me like 2 minutes. I'll finish. Lady Sarah cannot handle everything that concerns Clip, so she has to delegate. Let others also help. Learn to laugh. Laughing is a way of reducing stress. This is myself and my wife. We create a lot of fun. We laugh at things. Number 12 is to learn to relax. Relaxing is very important. Meditate on things. And sometimes you just have to be quiet and meditate. Think about things. And one of the ways of relaxing is to do what I call deep breathing. Sometimes you are called to handle a program or something. You are stressed. Just taking 3 deep breaths, and you bring it out. 3 deep breaths, bring it out. Realize that you end up relaxing for what you have to do. So number 13 is to learn to stay positive. Positive. Talk positive to yourself. It is well. It is doable. Learn to know that you are not. Okay, I'll just be given a sign that there's some amount of time. So, we should learn to stay positive. We don't have to, go through so much pain. For me, I don't like staying around people who are negative. People who are negative will let you become negative in the long run. In life, people will criticize us, but take it easy on criticism. Politicians are being criticized, pastors are being criticized, leaders are being criticized. You will go through criticism one way or the other. Learn to take things easy. We are not superheroes. So where there is a need for us to ask for help, ask for help. You can't do everything in life. There are situations where even doctors, medical doctors, go seeking for professional counseling because of the stress that we go through. You are not a superhero. Where you need counseling, get a counselor, get somebody to help you, and do regular checkups. Regular checkups. So on this chronic illnesses, once you do a regular checkup, you are able to pick up some of these things very early. So regular checkups, very important. So I'm just trying to run. Having said all these things, stress is something that we can't do away with. It's an uncertainty in life, and we would go through stress in life. But we have to be positive as we go through stress. We have to know that if people have gone through stress and they have come out very successful, then we can also come out of stress very successful. It's very good to have a very good plan. So to conclude, let me say that stress is one of the stimulus or situations in life that we have to go through because of change. Change itself is like climbing a glacial mountain. You have landmarks. By the time you come back, back, those landmarks are not there again, and you have to now think about finding your way back. So change happens all the time, and change puts so much stress on us. Therefore, there is a need to develop skills that will help us cope or reduce the amount of stress that we go through in life. And I think I've gone through about 13 ways by which we can cope with all the things that we go through in life. If we are able to do all these things, trust me, we will to beat stress as corporate ladies. Thank you very much. And I think I would pause here for questions.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Ahen. We are really grateful. You know, we've gotten this free of charge. You didn't charge us for this that you are doing for us. And so thank you so much. If you have to see this man and you go to 37, you have to pay consultation and do a card. But this morning you blessed us with this. And so we are so much grateful unto you. We'll take questions. If there's, I have one here which says that what happens when your trust is betrayed and you are going through stress? What happens when your trust is betrayed and you are going through stress? And so as Reverend Ahen answers this question, please, if you have any question, kindly send it through, or you can raise your hand and then we would give you the opportunity for you to ask your question. And so, Asafo, please, what happens when your trust is betrayed and you are going through stress? Thank you.
This is a very good question. There have been situations where people have their trust breached and they go through so much stress. I think it depends on where you find yourself. God has blessed us with pastors and counselors. When I say counselors, people who are matured, they have gone through relationships, they are in marriage, and some are professional counselors, some have the experience. So you can approach any of these people and discuss some of these things with them. I mean, sometimes talking alone is a way of managing the stress. So once you identify a professional counselor, it could be a pastor, it could be any other counselor, somebody who is experiencing marriage, they will help you come out of this. And they will also offer suggestions as to handling trust, especially in our marriages. Thank you.
Thank you, Asafo. I think I have a question. Mine is the planning. When you were making your presentation, you spoke about planning to reduce stress. Now, as corporate ladies doing work in our corporate environment, you know that maybe for the week or sometimes for the year, you would have plans. And so you schedule your leave and all that. And then along the line, you are told that, oh, there's work, so you can't take your leave. And then before you realize, you worked from January to December. And so the only time you get to take off maybe Christmas, and then you have a short break, and then you are back to work again. So, and you need to work because we need the money as well. So how do you manage this? Even on weekend, the weekend cry is not enough for you. And then your leave is also taken away from you. So how do you manage this? If you are forced to work from January to the end of the year and you are not able to take even your annual leave in such an environment?
I have this diagram from Steve Convey on planning. And you see, in life, there are things that are urgent to us, and there are things that are non-urgent to us. There are things that are important to us, and there are things that are non-important to us. When you have to plan for anything, I think that if you find yourself in the important and non-urgent quadrant, if you're always in that quadrant, you end up planning and having time to plan and replan. A lot of time people find themselves in the urgent but important things. So you're always managing crises, you're pressing problems, there's no time, there's a deadline for you to meet. So plan your life well. You know that in 3 months, we're going to have this program. You start planning way ahead. You have to get speakers. You have to let people also handle other things. So once you look at the time that you have, you put things in the right perspective. Those that you have to call, you call. Those that you have to delegate things to, you delegate things to organize some of the things. I mean, it goes a long way to make you, I mean, you become more relaxed. So you are able to do the checks and balances wherever it must be done. So starting early is very important. Starting early. So when it comes to planning, start planning very early. When you start planning early, you have time to replan, go back and make all your checks and balances. So I would say that start planning early. Get people, delegate, get people to help you. Very important. You are not a superhero, like I mentioned. So sometimes you need to have people to help you. When you are able to do these things, you'll be on course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. I think the next question says, please, do we have medications for stress? Please, do we have medications for stress?
Okay. See, stress is a reversible process. So once you are able to reverse whatever is causing the stress, you don't need medication. But when the stimulus that is causing the stress continue for a long time, then you end up getting into depression, where now you need medications to stay. So for stress, I wouldn't advise medication. Where you have to sleep, just relax. So having to go through what it takes to reduce stress, I mean, you don't need medication. Just go through the process and you'll be fine. Yeah. Thank you. You are muted. Lady Mercy, you are muted. Madam Mercy, you are muted.
Okay, sorry. I don't know what happened. Okay, the next question says that how can stress affect your sleeping pattern? How can stress affect your sleeping pattern?
If you have any other question, then I can answer all the questions together.
Okay,
Any other
so
questions?
yes. And then the next one says, please, are there people who are never stressed? Stress feels like a normal thing. And then the third one is, Doc, I would want to know the place of spirituality and stress management. The place of spirituality and stress management. And then the last one says, Rev, please, at what point in time do you need to see a professional? At what point in time do you need to see a professional? So I'll add the last one. And then it says that can you live a stress-free life? What things would you need to live a stress-free life? So we'll take these 5 questions and then you can still send your questions. After that, Doug will deal with those ones also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mercy, for the questions. The first one, somebody was asking, how does stress affect your sleep pattern? You see, anytime you are so stressed, there is a change in our hormonal system, the hormonal and the new, especially the hormonal system. So based on the hormones that are sent into your body, I told you that there is a physiological response, and that causes a change in, so you are not able to sleep. we call it insomnia. So once there's insomnia, it finally leads to a change in your sleep pattern. So stress causes a change in our sleep pattern. And somebody asked whether people are never stressed. I mean, everybody in life goes through some amount of stress. But when we are not able to cope with the stress, then we say you are distressed. Sometimes there's a little stress that you need. We call it e-stress, E-U-S-T-R, e-stress. So e-stress rather gives you the energy to go for something. It's stress, but it rather gives you the energy to go for the opportunity. So everybody goes through stress, but our reaction to stress is what makes it negative or positive. Somebody also asks of the place of spirituality in stress management. When I spoke, the first thing I spoke about was our support system. Our support system. I mentioned that when the disciples were asked not to preach again, they went to their company and there they prayed. So, I mean, prayer comes in, and most of the time, but you'll be surprised that most of the people who go through prayer stress are not even able to pray themselves. That is why you need a support system to help you in the area of prayer. Once you have a support system, it helps you. Sometimes people will be going through stress. They say they don't know that they are going through stress unless somebody points out to them. So if they say they don't know that they are going through stress, how would they pray? And when you have a support system, then they can point out to you, help you, and support you in prayer. So spirituality is very important when it comes to stress management. And it's always the number one. I mean, God is able to do everything, even beyond our imagination. So our connection to God is very important. Then somebody also asks, what things do you need to live a stress-free life? What things do you need to live a stress-free life? I mentioned that for you to have stress, there are two things that come into play: a perceived or a real threat, and two, the resources. So once there is no threat, or there's no real or perceived threat, you know that there will be no stress. And number two, once you have all the resources available, I mean, you are able to meet all the demands. So the amount of stress is very, very, very minimal. The Bible says that money answers all things. So once you have the money or the system to make money, when I talk about a system to make money, it could be a wealth creating system. You are okay. Think about somebody who has to pay school fees. Once you have the money there, you don't even think about having to pay school fees. But once you are a government worker, you are waiting for end of month salary, then you are thinking about the school fees you have to pay. Look, people are wealthy. They are able to donate buses. They are able to give a lot to the service of God. And that's before they don't think too much. So once the resources are there, or resources there, I mean, it's good for you. Then the last one, somebody asks, at what point you see a professional? I've spoken about all the things that you notice. And when you tally the evidence, you know that, no, this thing is becoming too much for me. Then it's about time to go and see a professional. I've spoken about our behaviors, our attitudes, all those. When you tally the evidence, then you know that, no, I think I need to see a professional. Thank you. I think earlier on I saw Lady Sarah's hand up. I don't
know. Okay. Lady Sarah, do you have a question?
Yes, my question was a follow-up to Mercy's question of having to work throughout the year without a break. I think that what I wanted to ask was, you said to plan, but sometimes for some of us, we own our time, but we also don't own all our time, because we work under people who disrupt our plans almost every day. So you know that you have planned yourself for this month. We all have work plans at work actually, but along the line, you know, somebody pops in and says that, Sarah, this thing has to be done, and it has to be done yesterday, and your plans are disrupted. And I think that these are some of the things that gives us a lot of stress. So Mercy was asking, what happens to someone who is constantly, you have planned, but your plans are constantly being disrupted because you are working under somebody who is disrupting it, and you can't resign. So how do you deal with such a situation? You end up working the whole of the year, and you only have Christmas and New Year as your break. So how do you handle such? So I think that was what the question was about, and I'm not sure that it was fully answered.
What can I say, Mamma? No, that is my matter. It's not that you don't plan, you planned, but some way, somehow, they find a way to just, you start early, you plan early, but some way, somehow, it still happens. That is my question.
It's a very difficult situation that sometimes you have to deal with, especially when you have experience and are working under people. But I think that grace abounds. Everything that we do, we need to pray and ask God for wisdom in handling some of the things that we go through. Once you pray and ask God for wisdom and direction, trust me, He would give you what you need. Sometimes you need to. I was speaking with somebody and said, you need to pray for your boss. I said, why should I pray for me? My boss is a wicked person. You need to pray for your boss. You need to pray for the people around you. For some of these things, I mean, they can just disrupt your schedules and your life and your plan, everything. So I believe in prayer. And I also believe in communication, dialoguing with them to know that this is the situation. So prayer comes in. It's very important to communicate, speak with them, let them know the influence or what you are going through. And I believe that everybody is a rational human being. Once they know that this thing is having an effect on you, I'm sure they would give you the break that you need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Ahe. So I guess we'll take the last question. Time is fast spent. So the last question is who?
And there's another hand up.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we'll give, I'll give you this one, then we'll take Reverend Betty since her hand is up. But the one here says, can stress cause heartbeat faster and weakness? So maybe you can put that one down, and then I'll give Reverend Betty the opportunity to ask her question. And then after Reverend Betty, we'll have Dr. Abigail Agatache also ask her question. Thank you. Reverend Betty, please, you can please come in.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mine is more of a contribution than a question. Is about music. Inspirational music changes your mind, changes your atmosphere. It does a lot to when you are in stress. So I want to say good music or gospel music, good inspirational music can also help a lot during stress. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Betty. We appreciate that. Can we have Dr. Abigail Agatache? Oh, please, you can come in.
Yes, thank you very much. I came in late, so I must have missed a lot, but I just want to add on to what Reverend responded to on the last question. I think when you are getting a lot of people distracting you and making you stressed out, one of the challenges a lot of us have is the ability to say no. When you learn to say no at the right time, politely, in explaining to people, it helps. A lot of us are always saying yes to everything because we want to please the other person. But when you know that it is not going to work out for you, I think that is very important that you know your priorities and therefore you're able to say no at the right time. I think that will also be helpful.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abigail Agatache. So, Reverend Dr. Ahi, you might want to take the last question.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the contribution, Doc. I appreciate that. Reverend Betty spoke about having music, and that's also part of relaxation. Once you relax, I mean, you can relax with music, you can relax whilst meditating. So it's also in that. Somebody asks whether stress causes increase in heartbeat, and that is one of the commonest and the earliest things that stress will do to you, because once you are going through a stimulus of stress, the body will produce, I mentioned one of the hormones that the body will produce is called adrenaline. It's the hormone that the body will produce. And adrenaline will cause you to either fight or run away from what is causing the stress. And adrenaline causes an increase in the heart rate because blood must go to every part of the body to help fight or run away from the stress. So that is one of the earliest causes of stress, increase in heart rate. So people who end up having a lot of palpitations, I mean, you need to watch that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. I don't see any other question. I don't see any hand up. So I believe that we are done with our questions. So I want to take this opportunity on behalf of CLIP to say thank you very much. That's why we keep saying that when we send out these flyers, please share, because you never know how far this kind of presentation will go to help someone. And so we beg you, when we share this flyers, kindly share on every platform. You never know, somebody will pick it up, and then we'll have an advantage to such a presentation. Reverend Dr. Ahi, thank you so much. God bless you.